Hello everyone and welcome to this video. What you're about to view is the Vlogumentary chronicling my recent trip to New York City. The first time I've ever been there, by the way. I slightly alluded to this video and this trip in my last one. You can see like some text on the screen when I mentioned I've never been to the East Coast, and then just text that says, oh, not yet, as of now, or something along those lines. So this takes place over the period of 4 days, and this is going to be slightly different from my last vlogumentary, since I was oftentimes in so many public places I couldn't really do on-the-fly stuff. So a lot of this is just going to be post-trip, me narrating a lot of it with a few exceptions here and there. So yeah, I hope you enjoy and have yourself a fun watch. Sorry for the darkness. It is currently 7:03 p.m. on, get this myself back into focus. It's currently 7:03 p.m. on Tuesday, September 13th. In about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm going to be leaving the house to go to the airport to catch my flight to New York City. This is going to be basically the beginning of my video log on this. I know vlog is far more colloquial, but video log just felt more fitting. So let's just see what happens.
Please hold on. Next up, end gates. Remain on board. Proceed and D gates.
Quedaron los perfumes míos.
Made it. And voila, after a 5-hour sleepless flight, we finally made it in New York at roughly 8 a.m., 5 a.m. Seattle time. And I've got to say, surprisingly, John F. Kennedy Airport looks run down compared to our very own SeaTac. But enough talking about the airport. Let's talk about our first impressions of the city. It didn't look too out of the ordinary immediately surrounding the airport, but it's once you got further away from it and closer to Manhattan specifically that you really started to see more of the defining New York City characteristics, such as the dense housing projects, the playfields that are located on every few blocks, multiple storefronts per block, the brownstone houses, can't forget that, the flocks of pigeons, the elevated train lines, and of course the tons and tons of honking. It's practically a lifestyle down there. You can never escape it at any given location. So my cousin and her husband were nice enough to let us stay at their place in Brooklyn, so that's where we were staying at. Once we left the airport and got nearby their place, we went to go ahead and get some breakfast bagels before crashing there for a little bit. I did say that I didn't get any sleep on the 5-hour long flight, so it was much needed. Now, unfortunately, I didn't do very much on the first day of my trip in New York, but what I do have in terms of footage I will be showing on screen. So basically, after the power nap I took at my cousin's house, I went with my other cousin, who was actually going to be accompanying me on this trip, to the Brownsville neighborhood so that he can get his freaking haircut, which we later learned that that neighborhood is the murder capital of New York City. So that's just fantastic. As for how we made it out of there alive, I'm not even sure. But whatever the case, I have some footage from within the subway, some points either before or after the haircut, so I'll show them on screen right now. That is the fucking New York rat. It's not a myth. It's not as big as they say, though. Probably get bigger later on. And of course, I couldn't get over the density of the city. You know, how nice the streets were with the brownstone houses. And I do remember that we ended the night off with a little fancy Italian dinner at some place in downtown Brooklyn. And my cousin and her husband, whose place we were staying at, were leaving the next morning. So basically, for the majority of our trip, we had the place to ourselves. First full day in New York, and essentially the first day where the real tourism begins. Started off the morning by waking up early, having some donuts at Fan Fan, then hit up a Macy's in downtown Brooklyn, to which we took the subway to get to, and from there walked our way to the Brooklyn Bridge to cross into Manhattan in the middle of rush hour.
Oh, my Dumbo's right on there.
Yeah, going on the Brooklyn Bridge. I'm just glad we're not one of these cars stuck in traffic and shit. Now, it was a beautiful day when we went on the bridge. Somehow, all the days we were in New York for happened to be beautiful. Clear skies, really sunny out. We crossed, as I said, the bridge in the midst of traffic, so that's one thing that I was grateful that we didn't have to go through. Caught the glimpse of several attractions from the bridge, such as the Empire State Building, Lady Liberty and her island, and as well as I believe it was a police chopper that was just constantly looping over the East River and Dumbo. So there's that. Actually, I don't even think it was a police chopper now looking at it. We also caught a glimpse of a bunch of bikers who, because there's individual lanes for pedestrians and cyclists whenever you go on the Brooklyn Bridge, and for some reason there was just so many bikers who just didn't go in the cycling lane. So it was, I don't know what the deal was about that. But of course, when you go on to the Brooklyn Bridge, after you see it so many times in pictures, as well as when you see the New York skyline from such a viewpoint, it all just sort of pops out in your face. Not only is that bridge a tourist attraction and historic, but also it's a very major, real piece of infrastructure, and there's vendors all over the bridge too as well. Once we crossed into Manhattan, we chilled at City Hall Park for a little bit before walking about a block or so to get ourselves my second New York style pizza. And from here, I actually did a review on the spot, as a fat businessman was looking at me quite judgy from my left. So enjoy this review. Second New York pizza. Let's try this shit. Freaking massive. God. Okay. Saucy, a little bit of cheese, crispy, nice and greasy. Pretty good. It's massive. Just what you need to walk in New York. That's possible. So after we hit up that pizza spot, we walked a couple of blocks down to the World Trade Center complex where we entered the Oculus, this sort of transportation hub and mall that is located right beneath the World Trade Center complex. We also went to visit the North and South pools where the Twin Towers once stood, and it was almost somber, soaking in the moment. Because you're literally in a spot where something so terrible happened that, that's so unfathomable.
Hudson River.
So after we went to the World Trade Center, we crossed the West Side Highway to Battery Park City, where my cousin and I chilled for a little bit, and I was actually able to give some more on-the-fly commentary since it wasn't too packed there. I would be showing the footage right now. Right now I'm in Battery Park City, just walking around. Just went to the World Trade Center, which is back there, that building with the spire on top of it. A second nice day in New York. Yesterday was just as sunny. Oh, there's a playground over there. Playground back there. Playground. There's a lot to do in this city, so much. And of course, since I'm at Battery Park City, Hudson River is right over there. I'll take you to see it. This little structure behind me is just a little like garden, but it's inaccessible. I couldn't go up there, so. But I saw people. Shit, I saw people walking up there though, which means that it's probably just the workers. Here's the Hudson River right here. There's Jersey City right over there on the other end. You can see the ferries. Ferries coming and going. Really nice city, really nice. As I've said, a lot of stuff to do out here. There's almost a part of me that's like, it's like I'm here, you know. And let me tell you, New York City is like one among the realest cities you can go to. It's all the real attractions in your face. I've seen so many pictures of this place that, you know, it's like finally being able to see it in person is kind of weird on its own. Okay, apparently I was mistaken. This structure you can't enter, and it's right here, the entrance. It's like a nature bowl kind of thing, though. So, see. Stone walls. Hanging foliage. Let's see what's up in here. Pretty nice. I thought it was inaccessible, but it's just inaccessible from this side, right over here. There's gates surrounding everything. Shadows. And there's an incline, so it goes uphill. I could probably I need to get better with my shots. I could probably get a much better view of the water from up here. So let's do that. Such a juxtaposition from like down here, and then bam! One of the tallest skyscrapers on the continent right behind me. It says right here a pretty common sense message of caution. Do not climb these walls. So you can see down there the street. We were just down there. There's a ferry terminal right over there. Nice view, isn't it? Very nice view. I'm now taking it in, you know, or not now taking the view in, but now taking in how actually massive the rivers on both sides of Manhattan are. Of course, the East River's right over there, which I just crossed to get here, across the Brooklyn Bridge, and then here's the Hudson River on the west. They're freaking massive. I mean, holy shit. I guess it wasn't a bad idea after all to build a city here. I mean, considering that this is probably the most successful city in the United States, both in terms of population and wealth. I mean, you get to the World Trade Center. I mean, every city has their very bougie attractions. One World Trade Center was that. My cousin and I approached the entrance. He was almost about to lay his hands on the door. Security guard woman asked aggressively to him, "May I help you?" Like, if any place has that stringent of security, it's definitely the bougie places where, you know, I guess anyone less than rich, they don't even have to be poor, but anyone less than rich are given sort of the double take. I just realized there's a little pond right here. Raise it up higher, maybe you can see it, get a better view of that little pond where some ducks are at. Let's get back down here. And upon finishing our chill time at Battery Park City, we walked down to the southern end of Manhattan to visit Battery Park and to also see the Castello Plan Monument, which is essentially the 3D model of the 1660 Castello map, which depicts Dutch New York, or New York when it was still like New Amsterdam and whatnot. After which we took the subway back to Brooklyn, where we awaited a second dinner reservation that night at Peter Luger's, where we had a rather non-memorable dinner with rather standard tasting steak and a two-person T-bone steak that cost almost $130 fucking dollars, which made it all the more shocking was as I was exiting the restaurant, seeing that they were a Michelin certified place. Honestly, it must have been like their wardrobe style and the atmosphere that got them that fucking star, not the food, let's be honest. So after that, we just essentially went back to home base to crash. So yeah, that's the end of day 2. So moving on to Friday the 16th, we woke up later than the previous day, but that didn't matter because we rolled straight into Manhattan via the subway to eat lunch at Carbone's, where upon entry a rather familiar song, Frank Sinatra's My Way, was playing. I've gotta say, the atmosphere was quite intimate. When we sat down, it almost felt like I was on a lunch date with my cousin. The menu was quite massive in size, and unlike the previous night at Peter's, the food at Carbone was pretty tasty. We had a rigatoni, a fettuccine with vodka cooked into it, and a side of 3 meatballs. After which we went straight to Washington Square Park, where we stumbled upon 2 jazz bands playing at the same time. The park was somewhat crowded, and of course, tons and tons of pigeons both flying and walking around. And from here, I'll let myself, from then, take over, as I actually have some on-the-spot commentary. Here in Washington Square Park, in this smack dab in the middle of Lower Manhattan. It's a nice place. Very walkable, a lot of trees. There's a fountain right in the middle and the famous arch on the edge. And I've already spotted like 2 jazz bands playing. I guess they're competing with one another. Good times. Quite packed, but enough space to not feel too crowded. After Washington Square Park, we went to the Polo Ralph Lauren and the famous Soho neighborhood, and then after that, we went to the 5-story Nike building, which had a great view of the streets from the window. Took the subway up north to Central Park. We were originally thinking about going to the Empire State Building, but due to the high ticket prices, I called off. And upon getting to Central Park, I took notice of the famous horse carriages and the extensive paths that were both pedestrian and cycle friendly. It's nice.
The picture of us.
That is disconnecting Bluetooth right there.
Somebody's speaker. You want to climb that? I can sit and watch. I can sit and chill.
One moment.
You can climb that if you want. Yeah.
There's the Bluetooth that's cutting out. And we wandered through the park until we got to Strawberry Fields, where I once again have some commentary footage to show. I just passed a lady who I believe had like a British accent, saying that she's traveled the world and she thinks that New York City is the safest out of all of them in the world. #1, top dog, which I find it kind of hard to believe. Right now I'm in Central Park. Behind me, right around here, if I can find it on the camera, right here, is Strawberry Fields, the memorial to John Lennon. It's actually happens to be located right across the street from his old apartment building, which he lived at in the 70s, in the same place that he actually was murdered, in the archway. So you kind of just get two attractions at the same time. I mean, not only is that place known for just being the home of John Lennon, but also it's a place where quite a bit of celebrities lived. It's kind of like a bougie apartment, like kind of for the rich place. Really old building, from the 1870s, 1880s. There was a guy who just finished playing the Beatles song "We Can Work It Out" in the at the memorial plaque. I can only imagine he was trying to sort of imitate the singing style of John Lennon there, kind of sound like it. Pretty good rendition, though no one can beat John Lennon at his own game, let's be honest. So yeah, I mean, enjoying the time here. This is like a nice open spot where not many people walk through, so I can actually record and vlog, give some on-the-spot commentary. So it's quite a juxtaposition, I'll have to say. At this nice wide long stretch of park in the middle of Manhattan in New York City. It's so much. It's like a big break from the busy streets. You're not that far from it, but it's like this nice area of quiet, you know, where you could just relax and just think, compose yourself and whatnot. The streets are just out there, but it feels so much more peaceful in here. And we're not even that far from, you know, all the buildings and all the mayhem that is New York. So pretty good time out here. One of the things I like about this city is that it is just so unapologetic. It's one of those cities where you can take photos at different places, or, you know, get footage for something without being looked at. People even unapologetically jaywalk out here. You know, like, you could hit the crosswalk button, if there is one at the intersection, and even if it doesn't change from the stop hand signal, you could just walk right across and no one will give a shit. And in fact, a lot of people do it. I've done it several times. I've even seen someone at the MTA subway just hop right over the turnstile without paying. I can only imagine. As much as I wanted to do that, once my card ran out of fare, I just couldn't do it. Also, New York is one of the realest cities you can go to. Like, there's all the big attractions in the world here, you know. The Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, the World Trade Center, Central Park, Brooklyn Bridge. It's all the real stuff here. It's not like imitation or any knockoffs. It's the real thing, essentially. There's so many things that I've seen depicted about New York in media that I was skeptical if they were true, but literally it feels like you're almost in a movie or a video game. Because it's like the accent is real. You have the subway, the pigeons, the rats, the urine-smelling subways, taxis, the honking. Like, this city, it's like you're living in some sort of a fantasy, and you're finally seeing everything come to life. It's unbelievable, you know, especially me being from Seattle, where, you know, you could do like half the stuff you do here and you'll get looks for it all the time. I almost started to feel like a small town kid just coming here because of how much smaller Seattle is, which by no means is it like a small city or like a town. It's a big city, pretty big city, but, you know, compared to New York, it's as someone said online, I read once, it's rather provincial. So it's a blast here. After Central Park, we walked down West 72nd Street to the Hudson River Walk, which is a walk that took a little while given how stretchy the New York City blocks can be, where we chilled there for a little while. and then from there took the subway down to the Hudson Yards, where we were intent on going up to the Edge observation deck. But while we didn't go up that evening, my cousin purchased 2 tickets for the following evening at 6, after which we went to find some nearby dinner places, where we found online this ramen place, which was quite well known, called Ichiran, but we called it off upon getting there upon seeing the massive line out the door. So instead we just went to Lucky's at 23rd to have this nice laid-back, no-frills dinner. And on the way there, I actually got some pictures of the Empire State Building lighting up in the night, as well as past Madison Square Garden crossing the street. And after our dinner at Lucky's, we just went straight home and crashed for the night. So my final day in New York, Saturday the 17th, I decided to go about a little bit differently, in the same way that instead of doing a voiceover like I had been for most of the video up until now, I'm going to be doing in like a traditional video format where I'm just sort of talking to the camera. I decided to take, instead of being accompanied like I had been the previous few days, I decided to just take it to myself. For 2 reasons. One, to vibe the city on my own without needing to be accompanied all over the place, but also 2, to take the purchasing burden off my cousin, because up until that point he had been more than willing to pay for expenses on his behalf and on my behalf. Now, that evening at 6 p.m., I was due to meet back up with him to go up to the Edge observation deck at the Hudson Yards. Since I took the data myself, I have quite a bit of on-the-fly commentary and footage, so I'll just let myself take it from here. It is currently 2:45 p.m. I've just been chilling on my own at what effectively is our home base for the time being that we're going to be in New York. My cousin just left earlier this morning to do his own thing. I couldn't call him, so I just sent him a text, but since I just did that, I don't know if his phone is dead or whatnot. We're planning to head to the Edge at the Hudson Yards in Manhattan by around 6 or 7 p.m. So I'm going to need his communication if we are to meet, sometime before that to get there. In a little bit, I'm going to be leaving the apartment. It's worth mentioning that even though the elevator does open up right into the apartment, you need a key in order for the elevator to even head up to this floor and this unit. And that at the base of the building, on the entrance, there is a code that you have to enter to get in. So it's basically like 2-step verification in physical form. So I'm going to be leaving in a little bit to just run some brief errand and then just chill around Brooklyn for a little bit on my own. You might be thinking I'm probably a bit bored out of my mind at the moment, but I'm actually kind of enjoying myself. Typically when I go on trips, I'd like to have like a day or so to myself where I could just chill and relax and not have to constantly be doing touristy sightseeing stuff all the time, which is fun and all, but it can get exhausting after you repeat it for a prolonged period of time. So now is my time to sort of be independent, which is not bad to say, having someone else's company on a trip is fine, but there's that one day where you just kind of want to be on your own and just do your own thing. So that's exactly what I'm taking today to do. Well, that was freaking useless. Excuse the earbuds in my ear. I was just listening to some YouTube videos as I was on my way to my previous destination. I was trying to deposit some money at a nearby credit union that was supposed to be in network of the one I use back in Seattle. Tried 2 times to deposit some money. Both transactions were rejected. So now I'm probably just going to get a snack and drink. So around 5 p.m. that evening, I embarked on the 1 hour subway ride to the Hudson Yards where I met up with my cousin just as our time window for our tickets was about to be up. Went up to the top where we got an experience in the elevator that I didn't record because of how freaking crowded it was in there. And of course, since it's a tourist attraction, it was quite an obnoxious place to go to, but nonetheless, I tried to soak in the views, and I have to say, absolutely breathtaking. The New York sunset, coupled with the beautiful urban scenery of New York, it was unbeatable. And you slowly start to see the city light up and glow up in the evening. And of course, a lot of other people were there to catch that same nighttime view. So it was probably the more crowded hours that we were there for, which made it all the more chaotic given how a bunch of people were reserving large swaths of space along the viewing platforms with the angled glass panes where you could look down. They were reserving a lot of that space just for their freaking glamour shots. There was even a point where there was a glass panel, albeit thick, where you could look straight down to the streets of New York that were directly beneath you. And we stayed up there for a good 2 hours or so, by that point which it got windy and started getting sort of cold. So we went back down to the basement level where we went to the food court so that my cousin can get some eats before heading back to the place. He was due to hang out with another friend that night, so he had to get ready once again. And I just chose that opportunity to chill for the rest of the evening where I have more on-the-fly commentary. Too freaking short, I'll tell you that. Just went to this place called Valentines Pizza, supposedly very good nearby where I'm staying at. Got myself 2 slices of buffalo chicken. I'm ready to get home and grub on this shit. This good stuff. Let's go. Carrying my pizza slices, trying to carry it as much as like I'm delivering mail or delivering some files instead of getting some food as possible, because I do not want someone to jack these slices from me or something. Okay, so I went out to this nearby pizza place called Valentines, and they looked like they got some pretty good buffalo chicken pizza. So I got 2 slices of that. I'm gonna do a quick review right here, and then maybe after I'm done sometime, soon, because it's already past 9:45 p.m., I'm gonna go down to a nearby ice cream shop, get some ice cream there as a final dessert for myself before we up and leave out of here in the morning. The drive and the ride to the actually, I don't even know our mode of transportation yet, but the ride to the airport apparently is probably going to take around median time an hour, so we're probably going to have to get up and out of here pretty early, given that our flight takes off at 7:15 in the morning. Whatever the case, at least I'm going to get back to Seattle sometime early in the morning there. So let's get on with the review, shall we? I mean, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. Got 2 slices of the buffalo chicken, and it's already dripping grease and sauce, so that's how you know it's a good sign. Let me just show you what it looks like. Sheesh. It's drenched in buffalo sauce as well as ranch, and there is some, I believe that's parsley on there too, alongside the chicken. So I'm gonna take a bite of this and see what I think about it. It's quite floppy, which is not a problem for me. I know some people have quite a bit of qualms with floppy pizza, but yeah, it's also thin crust. So let's try this. Got that nice cheesiness mixed in with the tanginess of the buffalo sauce. Chicken is not dry, so crunch to the crust right there. Nice and greasy, a little bit of oil, but not too much to where it's overwhelming. Get a bit of the part with the ranch. Of course, buffalo goes good with ranch, so this is like all that in a pizza slice. So overall, pretty good. I have to give it 9 out of 10. course, it's got to soak in more for it to be a 10, you know. I'll see if I like it by then. I'll probably put in an edit right here, telling you all if I ever change my rating at one point. But yeah, pretty good. 9 out of 10. I would definitely eat more of this shit. Good shit, by the way. So it is now 11:48 p.m. I just took a long while to shat. The nearby ice cream place closes in a little over an hour. Their Saturday hours are kind of unusual. They open at 9:45 p.m. and then stay open until 1 a.m. So it's just up the street. It should be a quick trip. I hope I don't get mauled on the street when I'm out there. But it is damn near midnight, New York City. So just gotta hope for the best, you know. I mean, realistically, it's not that scary. Once you get onto the street, it's kind of like your mind enters like it's go time kind of action mindset where you're not really so much worried so much as you are just staying as vigilant as possible, which is good, you know. Always take the basic steps to be vigilant, otherwise you will get mauled on the street. So just a little tip for you, for any of you who think that you're about to walk onto sketchy streets. It's a very different story when you're scared of going outside, but when you're actually out there, it's a big difference. You don't really feel scared so much as you just feel prepared to deal with something, you know. So, gonna go out to the ice cream shop. Might get myself a little bit of a mint chocolate or cookies and cream. Jeez, almost made a big slip up there. But yeah, get myself a little midnight dessert, and then I'll be on my way back here. And in a couple of hours, my cousin and I are going to be leaving for JFK Airport. It's worth mentioning, and I'll probably mention this at some other point in the video, that my cousin's sister, like my cousin and her husband, actually left for Seattle. They actually left for Seattle themselves early on into our trip, so we've essentially had the place to ourselves. So that's why you don't see me mentioning much of them as of late. So yeah, nighttime walk in the area of Brooklyn. Pretty sure there was a night mode I could have enabled such that the area where the lighting didn't stay so dark. Going to get some ice cream as a midnight treat before I leave New York later this morning. So yeah. Now usually if I'm back home in Seattle, I never go out this late, but in New York City I just had to. It's a 24-hour city and there's so many shops nearby. You just have to at least have that one nighttime experience where you go out, you buy something, like a late night snack for yourself, you know. I just had to, you know. And you can tell that there's still a lot of activity on the street by this hour. Back home it would be dead, most certainly. Okay, ice cream, nighttime, midnight ice cream snack acquired. That place was slightly different from all the ice cream places I've went to in the past, primarily because you didn't just go up to the counter and tell the person there what you wanted. Or at least the way I did it, there was a chance that they possibly did that, but I just went up to a electronic panel and just placed my order there, got the receipt for it, showed it to the cashier, paid, and then waited for it. They had like an order number on your receipt that you could listen out for until they called it. So yeah, at least I can say I got the midnight New York experience. So yeah, about to grub on this ice cream, suck it down, and then be ready for the flight in the morning. I'll see you at the house, home base. 4:02 a.m. right now. In about an hour or so, my cousin and I are going to be heading off on our way to John F. Kennedy Airport. Every time after, I always stay at a certain spot for any prolonged period of time, and I guess this is sort of natural for the human condition, is that I'll start to get sort of sentimental, that's the right word, about these places I've stayed at. And it's like, there's a part of me that's like, man, this is a really good spot. I'll probably miss it, especially if it's, because we're not staying at a hotel or Airbnb, which is not only expensive, but is also a spot that's used by so many other people, you know, and is meant to be temporary. Whereas here we're actually staying at a relative's house. So yeah, it was always nice that whenever we just come back here, home base, this would just like lay back and relax and chill here after coming back from the hectic city. So it was a really nice spot. The bed was really comfortable. So yeah, I'll miss this spot for sure. But, you know, I'm gonna be having to go back home later, so yeah. I'll see you when we get to the airport.
It's up there.
Oh,
Nice.
That's good. Guess we got something now. And there you have it. That wraps up the highlights of my 4-day stay in New York. First time being there. I really hope you enjoyed this watch. This took quite a while to edit. It sat in my editor for about 2 weeks, and I edited sporadically over that period. But I really hope that it was able to showcase the sights and sounds of New York, not only just the touristy aspect, but also the very ordinary life in that city. Hope you enjoyed watching. If you made it this far, I know a lot of people's attention spans have slowly disappeared over the past few years, so if you've made it this far, I must congratulate you, even though that's the equivalent of getting a participation award, but nonetheless, it's a long video. I understand you may not watch the entire thing in full, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.